Hello, welcome back. Welcome to a video lecture covering the readings for this first week, and they fall under the two categories, really, definitions of risk communication and risk communication research. And so what I did was I went back over my notes and looked again at the documents, and I tried to come up with kind of a way of looking, at these that might help you when you're reading them. And so what you can do is look at really what we're trying to get out of them, I think, is to, and a good place to start here would be to look at what we're talking about, which is risk communication, and then to look at also the kinds of questions that people are asking. So each of the four sources this week will bring in a little bit different voices, a little different groups, and they will find uncertainties in various places that are different. And that's another way to kind of characterize how they approach defining risk communication and defining risk communication and research. So let me see if I can sort of pull that together again for you. Ask yourself this question: where is the conversation that they're reflecting on in their article? The definition of risk is often framed by identifying the people who are involved in the debate about risk. And so if we look at Fischbacher-Smith, for example, it's really clearly easy to see that he's talking about the conversations between in government and policymakers. And so this essay looks at risk from a historical but very high level view, where policymakers are getting information from risk assessors and building policy. And so a central concern for Roddick's is where policymakers get their risk assessment information. And in the past, it's been passed along by risk assessors to risk managers, and then those risk managers or policymakers really get their information from science. So what he's trying to do in that article is to broaden the conversation so that the conversation takes into account other kinds of voices, to look at what he calls the shadow areas and cultural areas, areas of cultural identity that define voices that you hear in the debate over what is risk, and in particular how media, the voices of media, shape the way risk is defined. And so it's a group of voicings that he's listening to. Ropick, on the other hand, looks at areas of toxicology, epidemiology, psychology, and those research disciplines that contribute to our understanding, or as he's very very clearly says, our lack of understanding. There are no easy answers. And so, but those voices are the ones that he is listening to. I might point out also that you could listen for the voice of the public in what he's talking about, because it's a voice that is, I think, conspicuous by its absence. So, but certainly he in that chapter from the beginning of that guide to risk that I provided for you, is looking at the kinds of difficulties we have with various scientific voices, toxicology, epidemiology, and those kinds of things. Roddick's in this article about, and this is more in the research area, hold on please.